What's up, everyone? Hope you're having a good day here this morning. Um, I wanted to get on here and correct myself and just get into a deeper statement. See, I left something out in the other video, and it's very important. Now, what I left out is in the other video that's beneath this one, I said, it was about feeling guilty. Now, I left a very important thing out. You know, I was watching this show, and this woman, she was wanting to get to know Jesus more. And she told the person, she had done terrible things, and she was very concerned about, you know, if Jesus would accept her after the horrible thing she's done. Now, I want to let you know something. I'm going to start off with this video by telling you the story about the three men on the cross. Now, there was three men. Jesus was in the middle. One was on the right. One was on the left. One of the guys that was on the side of Jesus, one of them was rebellious against Jesus. Didn't want to have anything. He was filled with hatred. He didn't, he was foolish. The other one, the other one realized what he did in his life was wrong, and what he did was he spoke out to Jesus. And Jesus, in that very moment, that man on that cross, it didn't matter what he did in his life. Within that last moments of his life, he chose to serve Jesus, and he realized who Jesus was, who Yeshua was. And he all he did was simply ask, and the Lord forgave him and accepted him. And that it didn't matter what he did in his life. All he did was reach out to Jesus. Okay, compared to that other guy who was constantly just just evil. He still would not acknowledge Jesus, compared to the other guy who did and asked Jesus to make a spot for him in heaven, and Jesus did just that. Okay, now moving on to the next thing. The reason why I bring this up is the devil, and there's more than one, but there's a reason why they call him the great accuser or the accuser. I don't even want to say great. There's nothing great about him. I don't even want to give him that much. Let's just call him an accuser. This is what he does, okay? When you do something wrong, you're supposed to feel guilty. That lets people know that you have a soul. You're not numb. However, what you're not supposed to do is go on that guilt trip. So yes, you're supposed to feel bad about something. Because see, in the last video, I stated that the devil will make you feel guilty. What I should have said is, you're going to feel bad, but don't allow the devil to send you on a guilt trip. See, I didn't break it down deep enough, and it could have been taken the wrong way. See, what happens is when you mess up, you're supposed to immediately ask Jesus for forgiveness and try to walk away from whatever you did that was wrong and try your hardest not to do it again. Okay? So, because we're not perfect, we're going to fall, we're going to stumble. But that's what I was stating. When you have what separates the non-perfect person from the next non-perfect person is, do you know Yeshua? Do you know Jesus Christ? Because what separates the non-perfect person from the next non-perfect person is the ones who have accepted Jesus. We are now under his grace and we have forgiveness, compared to the person who just, they don't want anything to do with Jesus. you know that's why Jesus died on the cross for us, so that we can be redeemed. Every sickness, every sadness, every negativity, he he fulfilled that law on that cross. you know so he defeated a lot of things on that cross. Spiritually, all that stuff is defeated. But see, the devil will attack you physically, which will lead into the spiritual realm. For example, how should I put this? The enemy, when you do something wrong, the enemy will sit there and he will make you dwell on it. And now that you're dwelling on it, you are now beating yourself up. You are now turning into depressed mode. The stress will build up. And sooner or later, you will self-destruct because you are no longer focused on the things that you need to be focused on. You are now listening to the enemy, and he has you, thinking about what you did wrong, and you still haven't asked God for forgiveness. All you see is what you did wrong. You still haven't corrected your mistake because you're still dwelling on what the enemy is throwing at you. Make you feel guilty. You're beating yourself up. Now stress is set in, and stress will cause cancer because it manifests. Stress, spiritually, it manifests. That negativity starts to manifest into your physical. And next thing you know, you look a mess. All because of something that you could have easily been forgiven for. So that's one of the main things that I wanted to tell you guys and really break down, because in the other video underneath this one, near the end of that video, I stated, it's going to hurt a lot of people. A lot of people are going to, when they feel God's love, it's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be awesome, but at the same time, they're going to look back and they're going to see all the things that they did wrong, and it's going to hurt. However, don't allow that to make you feel guilty. Feel the hurt and then let it go. Because if you don't feel the hurt and let it go, that hurt is going to turn into bitterness, going to turn into depression. It's going to stop your blessings. It's going to stop you from doing the things that you need to accomplish during that day because you're too busy. You can't even get out of bed because you're too busy sobbing, giving yourself a guilt trip. And the devil is accusing. But I'm here to tell you that the devil cannot accuse those who have asked Jesus for forgiveness, because he forgives you and it is forgotten. And it's your job to try your best to be your best. Okay, so don't listen to those devils that constantly want to accuse you of what you've done way back when or whatever. You are no longer that individual. So you need to tell the sideliners and all the devils that's right behind them talking all that foolishness that, hey, I've been forgiven by the Creator. So, moving on to the next thing. People say, this massacre that occurred this weekend, they say 50 people died that day. No, a lot more died that day, just not all at once. And let me explain why. There's two ways you can take someone out, and that's immediately or long term. And not all those people are going to forgive. Not all those people are going to forgive that individual. And that unforgiveness is going to build up in their soul and cause them to be bitter. And it is going to eat them alive later on. Something that happened in the past is going to eat them up. Those people who were connected to the lives that was lost in that shooting, you have to forgive, because you sooner or later will become part of that count. And let me tell you why. Because you will self-destruct. You will self-destruct. Because of unforgiveness, you will self-destruct. You will grow bitter. And the bitter you are, the farther you're away from Jesus. The more evil your soul becomes. You have now allowed that individual who caused all that pain on that day to leak into your life due to unforgiveness. So, for those out there, if they want to keep that count to 50, which is awful, that is so terrible that it is even 50 people or 49 people that died that day. But don't make it more than 50 through unforgiveness, depression, suicide because you can't take the hurt anymore, frustration, anger, hatred. Don't become that individual that caused all that pain. Don't become him. Because if you don't forgive, that's where it's going to lead to. You're going to start to hate people. You're going to start to hate. And when you start to hate, oh, the devil is going to use you against yourself and others. So I want to encourage the people who was affected by this massacre to forgive, to continue to love, to continue. This is so important to know that when someone hurts you, you have to forgive them and love them. You don't have to keep them in your life, but you can love them from a distance. Have no hard feelings, because you need to forgive for yourself and you need to forgive for our Heavenly Father. That's the one thing he did when he laid on that cross. He said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. After they ripped him apart and spit on him, he still turned around and loved those same individuals and forgave them. So if he can do it, so can you. Because that's one of the main things God is going to look at, whether whether you know Jesus or not. That's one of the main things you have to do. I should have stated that earlier in the video. There's people out there that have accepted Jesus, but they still refuse to forgive. And let me tell you something. That's one of the main things. That's one of the main things that God looks at on that day of judgment. You want God to forgive you, but you cannot forgive your neighbor. It says, Jesus said two simple things. Love me and love thy neighbor. Love. So what he was trying to say was, love him and love thy neighbor as you love him. How simple is that? So I hope these have been words of encouragement, and I love you guys, and have a beautiful day.